Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, Nadine, I never knew that you was working class. Nadine Dorries is a working class gal. Oh, that was a bit of Dolly Parton, by the way, because you know me already. Yeah, I love all sorts of different genres of music. Do you know what I mean? You know so it could be like Dolly Parton and a bit of Willie Nelson, and that could do me for the night. Trust me. Well, but anyway, Nadine Dorries is a working class gal. No, I don't think you even heard that. Nadine Dorries is a working class gal from Liverpool. Yes, okay, I'll do it. I'll be a long-haired lover from Liverpool. I'll do anything Boris Johnson asks. Nadine Dorries is a working class gal from Liverpool who was born into poverty. And I know what you're thinking. Nadine Dorries is working class from Liverpool and was born in poverty. Yeah. And she's using that. This is what makes me sick about these people. Just like Sadiq Khan. How Sadiq Khan was always ready to bring out, oh, my dad was a bus driver. While slapping people in the face with the ULEZ. Nadine Dorries is pissed because you know what? This working class gal from Liverpool has been blocked, right, from getting her peerage, right, by that committee, right, and insert P word, and that be the Asian. Nadine Dorries has been blocked by the posh boys. That's how she's putting it. She said, you know what? Blocked right by that Rishi Sunak and all those bloody Asian. Insert P word there. Because that's what Nadine was thinking. But, just unbelievable that Nadine now all of a sudden has come out to say, well, actually, they've stopped me because I'm a working class gal from Liverpool. And that's the reason why they've stopped me from getting a peerage, because they don't want no working class people in there. I'm going to say, well, did they know you was working class? Did they know that you was a working class gal from Liverpool? I mean, because this is news it's news to me anyway. So it could be news to a lot of people. Right, but when I tell you, that she's thrown her toys out the pram, and then when her parents have gone to get the toys that she's thrown out the pram, she's got behind the pram and she's rammed them into the river, right? Or, right, she's thrown her toys out the car on the M25. And then both her parents have got to go back and retrieve those toys because she's going to cry her head off if she doesn't get them back. And when they've jumped out the car, she's jumped in the driver's seat and she's driven off. That's how pissed Nadine is. Left her parents right there on the side of the road. Nadine Dorries is pissed. Well, I tell you what, she's using the fact that she's a working class gal born into poverty in Liverpool to say, this is the reason why they haven't given me my peerage, right? And what about, because she should be saying right now, she should be using this whataboutery. She should be saying, what about this 29-year-old that Boris Johnson is putting in, right, to the House of Lords to be given, right, a job for life at £330 a day and to be able to make laws over us, the youngest peer ever Boris Johnson just made. And, you say, no, well, Nadine, right, the two of you are blonde, but there's only one thing, right? She's young, hot, Tory totty. And that is where you made your mistake, right? Because let me tell you, right, this young girl, I've taken one look at her, and I can tell you that her and Boris, right, was doing the beast with two backs, right? Let me tell you that, right? But only the difference is, is this young woman has outsmarted Boris, just like that. She's proper outsmarted Boris, because you know what? She has tapes, she has recordings, she has videos. I guarantee you, right? Because there's no possible way, right, that someone can work in the House of Parliament for 5 years. You know something? I've just made a complete fool of myself because David Cameron put wholly foolish people in the House of Lords, like hairdresser and all these type of people. But anyway, We're talking about Boris Johnson now. And Boris Johnson, there's no way Boris Johnson is going to put someone who's been working for like 5 years, right, as an advisor, right, in the House of Lords, in the Houses of Lords. So Boris Johnson has put her in because she's got something over him. If you know anything about Boris Johnson, then you would know that that's the truth, right? She's got the videos, and she knows, you know what, she could have just... Because remember, like, she's 29 years old, right? And she's been working, so which means that she's been working there since she's 24. And I think, right, that she would have looked at Boris Johnson and thought, yeah, and targeted him. And just simple as that, just target him to say, you know what, this could be my foot into the House of Lords, right? But Nadine, right, who's been, Nadine has been cupping Boris Johnson's balls this whole time. She's been holding her hand over his sack to make sure it wasn't injured. And Boris Johnson knew that that Nadine couldn't get this award, because that's what the talk is. The talk is that Boris Johnson already knew. But Nadine doesn't want to believe that, because Nadine believes, you know what, because I had my hands on his sack like mother all these years, right? That is the reason why Boris would never do this to me. And I say to Nadine, have you ever met Boris Johnson? And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages. And a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up. So thank you so much for that. I'll go for all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages definitely. And we're going to go, you know what, Berlusconi has died in Italy. And let me tell you this, right? If you want to know about, if Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, right, if they want to know about corruption, Berlusconi would just say, hold this pizza pie, right, and this rather large lager, and I will teach you what corruption really is. Because Berlusconi was like, he was Donald Trump and Boris Johnson just rolled into one. Right, but just with open affairs that he would just have, right, and just get up to all the rest of the corrupt stuff as well. But Berlusconi, he was like, but he lived to a ripe old age, because I think he was like 80. He's 80. I'm sure he's 80 something. Might have been something. I'm sure he's 80 something. I'm sure he was in his. Might have been early. It might have been early 80s, isn't it, Berlusconi? So it might be 82, 83. But I suppose that's not. But it depends on how you look at life, because some people say that's a good innings, and some people say, well, nowadays if you're not reaching well into your 90s, then you haven't had a good innings, especially with all the medical technologies that we've got, and people like this will be able to get their hands on the world's best medical technology. Donald Trump was in court just 2 days ago now, and. So obviously he's had to face his charges for the first time. This is after he's been calling out for the for the MAGA crowd to come up. He's been doing this since the 1st of January, because he tried this in his last trial, his last arraignment that was in New York, right? And that's the worst place for Donald Trump is New York. Even though he was born there, the people hate him there. They're much more like him in Florida, where he's living now, and obviously Miami is just around the corner from there. So he had a rally call out for people to come down, because obviously Donald Trump wants them to come down and cause a whole heap of problems, right? So that he could say, well, this is how much power I'm wielding still. But just a few people turned up. Maybe a couple. I don't think it was a couple of hundreds. Maybe between say 50 and 150, I suppose. About people that turned up down there, and just obviously not enough to cause an insurrection, but that's what that's what he was asking for. So anyway, but he's got all his charges now, and if you hear the Republicans, I mean these guys are tearing themselves into knots, right, trying to defend Boris Johnson, tying themselves into knots, I should say, trying to defend Donald Trump, But it's just, if you hear, who is it? The Speaker of the House, a guy named Kevin McCarthy, right? They were speaking to him, and he's like, yeah, but what about Joe Biden? I say, something, right? What these people are doing, right, is so dangerous, yeah, and it's deliberate as well, because FBI have stated clearly, right, the reason why they've gone after Donald Trump is because Donald Trump refused to cooperate, right, and then he started getting in the way of the investigation, right, moving boxes from here to there, right, instructing his lawyers to lie on his behalf. Right, so Donald Trump was doing all these type of things, right? Mike Pence didn't do that. Joe Biden didn't do that. And then these people are still bringing up Hillary Clinton. This is how desperate these people are and how stupid they are, right? And the thing is, yeah, the people who they're influencing, yeah, are some of the most violent people in the world, and these people have guns. And you've got people like Kevin McCarthy and Donald Trump, complete. We expect it from someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I don't know if you believe this, but Marjorie Taylor Greene a few days ago went to a hotel, right? So doing a hotel, and they had a gay pride flag outside the hotel, so the rainbow flag outside the hotel. Right now, this hotel is called the Gaylord Hotel, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was on stage complaining about the flag. Well, but it's called the Gaylord. I'm sure they've called it that for a reason. I'm sure it's just not because the owner's name is Gaylord, is Michael Gaylord. I'm sure this is how off key that these people really are. But anyway, so they're all out, right, tying themselves in knots. One or two of them are breaking away and saying, listen, you know something, right? These charges are just like, because we can all see, I mean, and it's not like they haven't got, these things documented. They've got video, they've got, his lawyers alone have recorded him, right, asking them to commit criminal offences, right? So, and then you've got the Republicans, a lot of the Republicans still trying to defend the indefensible. So, okay, well, you carry on, because all you're doing is just stirring up more and more problems for your country, because the country's so divided. And the worse the Republicans get is the longer that they these guys should be out of power, because I can't really see them going. I can't really see them going anywhere with this, especially. But in saying all of that, right? Donald Trump won't get on trial before next year November anyway, and that's when the election's up. So because for some reason these people have been dragging their feet. I mean, the insurrection alone, right, should have had Donald Trump locked up the next day, right? He shouldn't have been out of prison to be able to fiddle about with any of America's nuclear secrets, right, and showing them off to this person and that person. He shouldn't have been able to do that anyway. So so the Americans really have to just say, well, in the first place, after the insurrection, right, this man should have been locked up the next day, but they didn't, and this is where they are now. And then we've got Kerry Lake. I don't know if you know who she is, but she is just calling for gun violence. She just made an open threat against the prosecutor, a guy named Jack Smith. Just like open threat. I mean, just said, well, we've got guns, and then she went on and said, well, this is just a public announcement or something like that. She went on to say, I'm like, well, how the hell, right, do these people get away with just openly threatening, right? Because a rap artist once was put in front of a congressional hearing, right, for using the word guns in his lyrics, because I believe he used the word gun and rhymed it with fun, right? And he got a congressional hearing and say, what about the Glock family? Oh no, don't worry about them. You just keep that out of your goddamn black mouth. Seriously, these people are off their fucking heads. Seriously, they really are. But Kerry Lake believes it's okay to go and threaten the prosecutor. But speaking of threatening people, today Boris Johnson's fate has finally come out, right? When the committee have asked for a 30, sorry, actually, it's 3 lots of 30, a 90-day ban from Parliament. That's what the committee, that's why Boris Johnson resigned, because that's what they was asking for, a 90-day ban from Parliament. Right? We can count those days together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 75, 85, 90 days. 3 lots of 30. 3 months. They want, that is the longest ban, right, that anybody, right, has ever had. I believe that. No, hold on. No, I think Keith Vaz got 6. I think Keith Vaz might have got 6 months. So yeah. So but for ex-prime minister, that's going to be the longest ever. Right, for an ex-prime minister, because I don't think anyone's been banned anything like this. But that just goes to show you the lengths that Boris Johnson, the thing with Boris Johnson, obviously Boris Johnson's been out this morning just blaming everybody else. I mean, he's even like Bernard Jenkins. He's even said, well, Bernard Jenkins, he brought COVID restrictions himself, because Boris Johnson had that in his back pocket for somehow, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to have done him any favours anyway. But 90 days. 90 days a suspension from the House of Parliament, and they want his parliamentary pass taken away, so he's no longer allowed to go down there, because who Boris Johnson will be in there all the time, lobbying, because that's why these guys keep hold their passes, so they can go down, they can lobby the MPs, because if you want to lobby, the best place you can lobby is in the lobbies. That's why they call it lobbying. But that's what Boris Johnson wants, so, but they want to take that pass away from him too. But 90 days, I mean, you might say, well, how the hell did this country get to a stage where you've got someone, as the Prime Minister, who has no right being there? I'll say, something, if you voted for Boris Johnson, then just look in the mirror, because that person looking back at you is the reason why this country is in the state that it's in. That's why it's here. Right, because you looked at Boris Johnson, whatever you saw, I don't know. Right, and even now, right, these people will say to you, oh, well, you know what, that Jeremy Corbyn, the one who had all the right policies for this country, he would have still been a lot worse than Boris. I say, have you been swimming in our waterways or something? Because you sound like you swallowed a load of fucking sewage and it's just swilling around in your brain. That's what I will be saying to all of those people who voted for Boris Johnson over Jeremy Corbyn, because I say, if you know that from the beginning, when Boris Johnson, 13, 14 years old, right, his headmaster sent a letter from Eton. That's why we know about it, because it's from Eton, to say that this man does not like to follow the rules. In fact, he believes it's churlish for us to even ask him to follow the rules, right? And he wanted to be made into one of the captains or something like that, or the head boy. And it's like, no, because you don't follow the rules. And Boris Johnson took offence, so they had to write to his dad. And I say a lot of people know that, right? And they say, yeah, well, if you're going to, if you're going to have someone like that in power, then England deserves Boris Johnson. I mean, Boris Johnson on tape arranged to have a journalist beaten up. Everybody knows this. I mean, the police know this. Everybody knows this. He wasn't, nothing happened to him over it. Just something he done. Now, let me tell you this, right? If that was my black ass, right, I'd have went to jail for that. Straight. There'd be no ifs or buts. Prison. Right? You arranged to have a journalist beaten up because of a story. You're going to prison. That's it. Right? That's what would have happened to me. So why is it Boris Johnson? It's just like everyone's having a right laugh about it. Oh yeah, good old Boris. The man who leaves his wife when she's got cancer. The man who has an affair on every single wife he's had. Right? So, if people, what was they expecting? I mean, if someone says to you, I'm going to go and put my whole arm into the cage of that lion, and you say to them, don't do that, it's stupid. And they start edging over there, and you say, listen, it'll bite your fucking arm off, mate. And then you see them, and their hand is in the cage, and you go over and you start pulling them back, and they say, let me go. And their arm is in there, because the lion hasn't seen the hand. But once the arm goes in there, the lion's going to see the arm. And the lion takes their arm off from the shoulder. And then they blame you. You should have told them. You should have known. Even though you were saying to them, listen, don't do that, right? Don't go into the jungle and tell a snake not to hiss. Because if you tell the snake not to hiss, it's going to see you, right? And then you'll end up swallowed, okay? Whole. That's what's going to happen. And that's what Boris Johnson has done. And the people around are like, oh, well, you know, it's this person's fault, it's that person, it's Jeremy Corbyn's fault for coming out and saying all the right policies that this country really needed. But we listened to the man who said, I'm going to build 40 hospitals. And they say, well, hold on a minute. Just question that. Question that for a second. You're going to build 40 hospitals? How are you going to do that? Where are you going to get permission? Because you've got to get permission. You want to build 40 hospitals in this country, right? Government or no government, right? Unless you're going to go over Raggo and just say, you know what, now take that. And just take the property and just say, well, I'm building it here. You shut up. Unless you're going to do that. And that doesn't work in this country. Right? You know, this country works off law and order. So when someone says to you, I'm going to build 40 hospitals, right? That's like your next door neighbours coming and say to you, listen, you know what? Next week, I'm buying you a Lamborghini. Now, unbeknownst to you, they've just won the lottery. So, yeah. But, you know, 99 times out of 10, right, they're just going to come to go to you, psych. Right? When you come outside to look for the Lamborghini. You have to say it like that, Lamborghini. Right? But on a serious note, yeah, you know, you knew what Boris Johnson was. Right? Why am I speaking about Boris Johnson again? Right? I hope this is, I know it's not going to be the last time, but I hope it is. But, you know, this Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, yeah, I never want to speak about these type of people again because these people are waste men. They're just wasters. I mean, and, you know, they're so good at lying. And both of them have come out of the school of Steve Bannon. Right? You see, but the thing with Steve Bannon, yeah, is Steve Bannon is the type of racist that I like. Right? A racist that wear their racism on their sleeve. Because that's what I want to see. Right? I want to see the person who say, you motherfucking nigger. I want to see that person, right? So I know who that is. I want to know who that is. I don't want the people who come behind me. Me and you are tight, man. Me and you are friends. And then stab me motherfucking back because you hate my black ass? Really? Come on, man. So they're from the school of Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon told people straight, wear your racism on your sleeve. And he told them, you know what? Just go out there, just lie. Keep your lies going. Right? And then that way, they can't, you know, they're back there. Right? You know, by the time you're on your 10th lie, they're like, what? They can't fact check in time because you've told so many. By that time you're off stage, you're done. You're off stage. Right? You take 2 questions, that's it, done. You really put what you need to put out there. That's how Boris Johnson and Donald Trump work. You know, Donald Trump obviously on steroids compared to Boris Johnson, but you know, that's how these guys work. You know, if it was in this country, right, you know, I don't think that Boris Johnson would have been charged where had Donald. It's just because our law systems are set up different. But in this country, they would have made all sorts of different excuses, right? And Boris Johnson would have got off in this country. I don't know if you've seen this, you know, because we've got a couple of stories. Obviously, Nottingham. We've had Nottingham, where 3 people have been murdered by a guy who's, I think this guy got some type of mental health problems. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I think he's from Syria or somewhere like that. So that's what a lot of people are jumping on. Oh, look, if it wasn't for the fact that they're letting all these bloody foreigners in, right, this wouldn't be happening in this country. So yeah, right, of course it wouldn't. Because, you know, we have our own murderers born in this country, so, you know, and our own people who have mental health problems. So, you know, so this has been an absolutely terrible incident, though, because this guy, you know, stabbed up, I think he stabbed up and killed 3 people, and then he murdered, like, this older guy who's a caretaker of a school, junior school, I believe, and he's taken his van and then he's rammed it into another 3 people. But I think this guy tried to get into a care home and all those type of things, you know what I mean? So, absolutely terrible story. And then we've got this other story about like this little Alfie Steele who was another child who's been murdered by his parents. You know, just really, really very, very sad. And then we've got another story about this woman that was that has given herself an abortion. And look at this story, and I was like, at first when I heard this, I was like, shit, this can't, this is a terrible story, right? And then I've heard that the child that she aborted was 8 months old, and I was like, well, this, she must have been in some real distress to have done something like that, because she's had to get the pills, the pills, and obviously those type of pills, right, to use on a child, because a lot of people try and say fetus. No, it's not a fetus. Right? 8 months old is not a fetus. That's a child, because people come out like 5.5, 6 months, right, and they live. Right, so, and I've heard people coming on the radio and saying, well, I was born at 26 weeks, and this woman done this at 32 or 32, I think, weeks, right? So so that is basically a baby that she's killed, that's in her stomach, and then I've heard the next part of the story that she's moved back in with her estranged ex, and she's pregnant by somebody else. Now I look at that and I think, well, hold on a minute. So if the estranged ex now has decided, actually, you're pregnant for somebody else, yeah, I'm gonna punch it out your fucking stomach like I'm some type of fucking zebra, because that's what zebras do, But not at stomach. They wait for the baby to be born. If it's not theirs, because one male zebra runs with a whole lot of I can't remember what the collective for zebras are. So I just say a whole lot of female zebras and his children. And if another female joins, right, and that female is pregnant at the time, the male will wait until the female's had the child and then stomp it to death. So if this man had decided, I'm going to punch this baby out of this woman's stomach, right, would people have the same attitude and say, well, yeah, well, he was under some type of distress, wasn't he? They'd say, no, he's fucking murdered that baby. And if he was to kill her at the same time, he'd get done for 2 murders, right? So, although I feel very sorry for this woman's children, right? Obviously, because she's been sent to prison, but, my sympathy has run out when I heard that, she's done it because, her new man, her estranged lover, ex has said to her, well, listen, you won't move back in with me, then because that must have been the conversation, because there's no way he could have said, well, listen, we're going to work this out between me and you, we're going to work this out, yeah. He must have been pissed about it for her to go and take those drugs. So I think the two of them should be in prison, especially if the police could prove that he had a lot more to do with it. 2 of them should be in prison. And let's talk about some Brexit quickly, because the Bank of England Governor Mervyn King has described the handling of Brexit as a complete disaster and utter shambles, and say, well, he would know because he did warn about all this shit. But I would like to say, because I'd say, well, was there a good Brexit, a better Brexit, a decent Brexit, a Brexit that we could all look and say, oh, that's the type of Brexit that I wanted to see? No, there wasn't. And Brexit is to blame for the drop in the UK's ranking in the logistics sector. We have gone from 6th to 19th. That's vans, lorries, trucks. Logistics moving on trains, on planes, on ships, on boats, whatever. We have gone from 19th from 6th to 19th. And I'll tell you, right, I would say that a lot of the Brexiters will listen to that and they'll be like, oh, well, it's just one of those things, isn't it? But, we still want Brexit. Don't matter what damage these people have done to this country. You see the destruction of Great Britain, and these people, and not even the Labour Party at the moment can even talk and say, listen, something we need to do. Boris Johnson's throwing his toys out the pram saying, well, they got rid of me because they want to reverse Brexit. That's what they want to do. They want to reverse Brexit. My God, this country is in a real state. And I have gone so far over on this video. I wasn't expecting to be this long, but my friends, it has been this long. This, my friends, is by any means necessary. I'm the MC John Ribs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.